Greetings and salutations. Hope this finds you well, comrades. So I found this interesting article on Substack, actually was shared in a group message, and I thought it was worth going over. It's talking about how Breaking Points, that YouTube show hosted by Saagar and Jetty and Krystal are pushing pro-war propaganda, pro-war talking points, and there's some kind of sketchy funding that they're getting from the military-industrial complex, at least on Saagar side. And some of the people that they're having on definitely have a very pro-war bent, pro-war perspective. People like Josh Rogan of the Washington Post, and Saagar has a very well-known track record of demonizing China and thinking all the problems in the US are like a direct result of China. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. And pushing the nonsense about how the coronavirus supposedly came from a lab leak in China, even though there's no evidence whatsoever to support that assertion. But he goes on and on about that. So let's check out this article because I think it's worth talking about. So here we go. Video share screen, I should say. God damn, this thing lagging like a motherfucker though, isn't it? Hopefully it uploads a little bit better. So Breaking Points pushes pro-war propaganda funded by the MIC by the dissident. This is a pretty good Substack. They got some good stuff on here. Supposedly independent media pushes pro-war propaganda. Breaking Points is a populist YouTube channel hosted by populist left commentator Krystal and populist right commentator Saagar and Jetty. The show has become very popular on YouTube, gaining 589,000 subscribers over a short period of time, several months, right? Many of their videos cover daily news from a populist lens. I personally have enjoyed much of the show and agree with many other takes. I don't consume much of their content, but they have some good stuff, here and there. I'll at least give them credit for that. But eventually I noticed a strange theme of hawkishness towards China throughout their videos. I mean, again, that's very common for Saagar to demonize China in any way he can. Not surprising given who funds him and who has funded him in the past. They consistently push to the lab leak theory, a theory that argues on very thin evidence that COVID-19 originated from a lab. Well, actually, there's no evidence to support that at this point, frankly. This at first was understandable for a populist channel to cover, as Facebook originally censored a mention of the story. This seemed an understandable thing to cover, as many, including myself, are concerned over growing internet censorship. I agree with that. And in which social media has taken out any content criticizing the official narrative surrounding COVID-19 in any way. I agree with that. I had a video taken down, a strike on my channel. Couldn't post for a week because I was calling out these anti-masker people harassing people outside the school board meeting. Anyways, but the channel took a weird turn on this narrative when it started to push the story as if it was factually true, mostly using, here we go, Washington Post reporter Josh Rogan. He's absolute fucking pro-war hack. I would use, journalist in quotes around this guy. On June 21st, Saagar and Krystal hosted Rogan to talk about the lab leak. This seemed really weird for a supposed populist anti-war channel to do, as Rogan, along with fellow neocons Barry Weiss and Mike Pompeo, were clearly pushing this narrative to advance a new Cold War with China 100%, as well as to take away, any blame for the abysmal failure that the United States has been handling the pandemic, the most deaths in the world, 700 plus thousand, while the last time I checked, China had less than 5 or 6,000 with a population that's four and a half times that of the United States. So I think that's also, to shift blame, right? If you take a quick glance at his Washington Post page, as of today, you'll find him writing opinion pieces telling Joe Biden to be tougher on Syria, North Korea, and Afghanistan. This is the person that they were, platforming for this lab leak bullshit. I mean, do better, right? Do better. A further look at his Washington Post page revealed he has pushed for more military involvement in Afghanistan, Syria, Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, North Korea, and Iran. Again, why are you platforming somebody like that? Maybe, have actual, anti-imperialist journalists with ethics and credibility. Maybe have somebody like, I don't know, Aaron Mate, Danny Haifong, Max Blumenthal, Ben Norton. This person seems pretty decent, the dissident, right? This pro-war turn on the show took an even darker turn recently when Saagar and Jetty and guest host Marshall Koslov invited on Jacob Helberg, who openly supported the United States arming Taiwan and openly advocated the U.S. going to war with China if China... Jesus fucking Christ, dude. The guest failed to mention that only 15 countries even recognize Taiwan as a country and that China's supposed violation of Taiwan's airspace was airspace over mainland China, not recognized as Taiwanese airspace under any international treaties. Segment seemed like any other pro-war segment you would see on Fox News, MSNBC, or CNN, not a populist alternative show. Fortunately, Saagar and Jetty decided not to disclose some important information about his guests. How convenient. Just like, Saagar doesn't disclose who has funded him in the past, all of these, institutes linked to the military-industrial complex and pro-war think tanks. Let's see. Jacob Helberg works for a think tank called the Center for Strategic and International Studies. The think tank is funded by arms manufacturers like Boeing and Lockheed Martin, as well as oil companies like ExxonMobil, Saudi Aramco, Saudi Arabia State Oil Company. The think tank also takes a lot of state funding, including funds from Japan, Taiwan, UAE, US, Australia, South Korea, Turkey, Canada, Germany, Italy, New Zealand, UK, and more. This is significantly important as many of these states are leading the charge of war with China, 100%, particularly the US and UK, but as well as, Canada and Australia as well. Jesus Christ. So there's Helberg. Who's getting funding from? The military fucking industrial complex and oil companies. Boeing, ExxonMobil, Gilead Sciences, Lockheed Martin, another defense military contractor, military industrial complex, funded by the fucking USA. I mean, Jesus Christ. It seems like textbook journalistic malpractice for Enjetti, but again, it's not surprising coming from Enjetti. He is, very much pro-war, pro-war, anti-China. He's hyping up all this bullshit that is aiding and abetting this new Cold War in China, and that needs to be called out and opposed because again, has hugely fucking disastrous consequences, and China needs to be defended. Socialism with Chinese characteristics need to be defended, and hacks like Saagar and Jetty need to be called out for what they are. For Jetty to not disclose his guest funding, but again, his past funding is questionable as well. As journalist Alex Rubinstein pointed out to me in response to my Twitter thread on this issue, Saagar previously worked for a think tank called the Hudson Institute that takes money from arms manufacturers, so very much in line with this Helberg person, right? Taiwan, South Korea, Rupert Murdoch, Pierre Omidyar, founder of The Intercept, who also supports these different regime change efforts abroad, and others. And none of this has been disclosed by Enjetti in the segments on China. Of course not. Okay, again, because he's a fucking hack. Investigative journalist out. This is a really good piece by Alan McLeod. If you click on this, you'll be able to get the link. That's a good one. I did a video on this article actually in the past. Alan McLeod's work in Mint Press News in general is great. Went into even further detail on Enjetti's past, studying counterterrorism in his Israeli university, training for a security state position at George Washington University, and working at a pro-Iraq war think tank. This kind of journalistic malpractice should not be tolerated in the alternative media. Many, including myself, would have thought of breaking points of a populist outlet that advocated ending wars and spending money instead of populist policies like Medicare for all. Instead, they are inviting on Washington Post neocons, like Josh Rogan, and MIC-funded goons to advocate war with China, like that Helberg person. Progressive, socialist, populists, and leftists alike should be wary of breaking points from here on out. They clearly have an ulterior pro-war agenda. So pretty interesting thought that, definitely was worth sharing. Simply for the fact that, Breaking Points has a fairly large, audience, almost 600,000 subscribers, and they're having multiple guests on that are, parroting this pro-war propaganda, this pro-war lies against China. That's, which could have hugely disastrous, consequences. So it needs to be called out. They they need to be doing a lot better than they are in this area. I hope they do. I don't have a whole lot of hope because Saagar and Jetty, from my perspective, is a lost cause. I think maybe Krystal Ball could be educated on this, why this is problematic to have these guests on that are pushing this pro-war narrative, this pro-war propaganda, these lies about China and the lab leak, and Saagar and Jetty and all of his fucking rants against China's his anti-xenophobia, etc. So quick shout out to the two Uber comrades supporting my channel and this content. Patreon, my partner, and Independent Left News. Definitely check out Independent Left News. Like the video if you like the damn video. Subscribe for more content. All part of the people. Peace. Much love. China is not the enemy. The United States is the biggest purveyor of death and destruction in the world. China just eradicated extreme fucking